it, but
I'm starting the meeting, guys, or starting the recording rather.
right. Do we have a quorum, which I don't think we do today.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, we do.
All right, awesome. You are recording? Oh, we're 2 minutes late. My goodness, the radio person in me going up not. Hi, Sarah. Hey, everybody. Okay. So the person on the right, Ash?
No.
Actually, yeah. Amy, I gotta get you. I apologize about that. Okay.
Different picture than I've seen.
Yeah, exactly. All right, give me 1 more minute as I try to get this agenda thing, consent agenda we can do, yeah, program update, get recode. Yeah. I'm not used to being this disorganized. Yeah. It's not that I'm disorganized, I have it, it's just. Yeah, recruitment. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, it is.
I don't have a printer at home, so I just have them.
But hello, guys. Great to see you. Today is 10/23/2023. We are here with the DD Advisory Council for DD Services, Clackamas County, and I'm happy to be here with you. Opening remarks, opening round of introductions. It sounds like we are needing because we have some guests here in a way of guests online and guests on here in front of us, and maybe potential members or not. First of all, I would like to probably do. Anyone have any questions before? Should we do meeting approvals now and then or do the introduction?
Let's do the meeting approval now, and then we can do introductions.
So hopefully the people here who have read the notes of the meeting approval, well, what date did we have that meeting? 9/25/2023. What's happening on my end is there was a miscommunication of whoever did the note did a really good job. But there was a miscommunication of intent, I believe, on my side. But what I will do is I'm gonna make an approval of the minutes and then try to make a re-clarification for these minutes. Both in a week, I can explain it next meeting. If you have any questions, once we send out, the post meeting for this meeting. And then, we can move forward from that. So hopefully people here have gotten the minutes or read those minutes and we need to have, if there is no objection as it was presented, if I hear any objections in the next couple of minutes, or not minutes, but a couple of seconds. I hear no objection of the minutes, so they are approved as presented to the council. And we will, it's been officially approved on the meeting minutes of 9/25/2023. Okay, introduction. Would we like to go with Ash first in the way of online contributions? That sounds like what we have a guest today. We're doing emergency preparedness. I'm all with the Ash. And I am excited to introduce Ash Kane, and I thank my co-chair and the leadership here at Clackamas County for inviting for emergency preparedness and a conversation today.
Hey everybody, Ash Kane. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the emergency coordinator at ODDS, the Office of Developmental Disabilities, at ODHS, Office of Oregon Department of Human Services. And I've been in this role for almost a year. It is a ARPA funded role. And I'm kind of the only one. And so I interface a lot with OREM, which is our Office of Resiliency and Emergency Management. And otherwise I do a lot of stuff like this, but I'll tell you more about that later on.
Good. Glad to meet you. Anyone else have any words on it? All right. As you guys know, I'll go myself and I'll go to online people afterwards. My name is John Merrick Russell. I am a advocate for those with disabilities in the IDD and DD field. Been doing many things around here, ways of council work, board of directors work, volunteering for certain community partners. And yes, later in my life took services of ODDS, much later in my life. And I felt there should be a voice in a way that we could hopefully help many people in many places in that type of gap and that type of understanding.
Hi everyone, I'm Brooke Galpan. I work in the Developmental Disabilities Program. I'm one of the supervisors over the policy and equity unit. Nice to see you all.
Appreciate all the work you've done.
Hello, my name
Councilmember?
is Sarah Lambert. I am a BD adult foster home provider. That about sums it up. I've been a provider for about 23 or so years, so welcome.
I'll get to our guest very soon, but I'm
No,
gonna
let-
let you want to get together. No,
I was just gonna say, and you're a member of the DD.
And I'm a member of the DD Council.
I'm Erin Carpenter, and I've been an adult duty foster care provider for 24 years, and I've also sat on the council for like 6 years, many years ago. We just came back to see what was going on.
Hi, my name is Adam. I live in a adult foster care home and I come to sit on the couches and see what's going on.
And I'm Kim Coda, and I am one of the program managers for Clackamas County's Developmental Disabilities Program, and I've been here about 8.5 years.
Hi there, Amy Butler. I also work with Clackamas County DD Services. I'm a management analyst in the Equity Policy Innovation and Collaboration Unit. And I've been here for about almost 4 years.
I'm gonna go left to right on my side. Stacy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy Mullins. I use she, her pronouns. I am one of the other program managers with the Developmental Disabilities Program. Welcome to all our guests, Erin and Adam. It's nice to see you. It's been a while. And Ash, thanks for joining us.
Colleen.
My name's Colleen Johnston. I'm a parent of a 17-year-old on the autism spectrum. So I joined last year.
Georgita. Did I get it right?
Close. Georgetta Vandermeer. I am on Brooke and Amy's team, the equity team, and I'm a grants coordinator. Thank you for having me.
Great to see you. We need those grants coordinators. Roxanne.
Hi, my name is Roxanne Cloutier, she, her pronouns. So I have recently just I've been a service coordinator at Clackamas County since 2018, but I recently started a new role as the designated referral coordinator. So I'm going to be helping people find placements in group and foster homes along with my counterpart. So yeah, I don't know.
Exciting times here. Definitely with the new changes from ODDS and all in leadership. Mimi.
So we'll want to go back to Sarah.
Hi, I am Mimi, or Kalkiran Ezra. I am from Clackamas County. I've been a provider for the last 15 years. And nice to meet you, new people.
Absolutely. Sarah,
You're on mute, Sarah.
yeah, I'm mute. Sorry about that. I skipped you and please forgive me.
I'm muted. So I have a daughter who's 20 who experiences disability. She has Down syndrome. And so that is why I became involved with any of the community services, the county services, and years ago. And I'm happy to be on this council. You guys are doing great things. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, nice to have you guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the work that we've done and what we have to go, get done later. One big priority of mine and the council was going to be emergency preparedness and how we move forward when there is a emergency that happens, like a fire hazard. And on the advocate side, it's like owning 2 vehicles where you could not, where RVs had easier access during the fire season. It is about preparedness of the book bags and emergency preparedness that way, to ways of giving out, life-saving devices for such days. And that grant was very important for me to have as a council as we move forward, and to understand how we respond when we go through an emergency. So it was very important for me that, and it sounded like at the SCPA conference, there was some conversations of that, which was very good to see. And I appreciate that work at hand. And when I saw that, I was hoping to invite us in the Clackamas County and a county response, because it is difficult to have sometimes that conversation when you're alone in an emergency situation, and how we can have that conversation as we move forward. So Ash, I would love for you to explain and what the council has, including what you do for your home provider stuff, and what others have done in ways of like school preparedness, emergency, to other priorities. So if we can move that conversation, that would be the best possibility, in a way that the locals can at least get that information as we continue our relationships with the services in Clackamas County, the state work that we do with ODDS. So thank you for coming. You're on mute.
You're on mute, Ash.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can do this however you'd like. If you want to just do full Q&A at me and I can answer, I have a few slides, and I know that I was requested to show off our GIS project, so I'm happy to do that as well. So just tell me where you want me to start.
Well, let's do at least a couple of those slides, and then if
Sure.
we have any questions, then we can go to the GIS thing later on. I actually don't have anything on my list to ask you questions right now.
I think we have a
Okay.
list.
I'm sure we have a list too. Thank you.
All right. And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. So this is just my quick bullet point list of kind of the things that I do. And these are all, of course, this is what we call blue sky days and gray sky days. So blue sky days are just like normal days where we're just course of business, and then gray sky days are when bad things happen. So blue sky days, this is the kind of stuff that I do. I manage our continuity of operations plan for ODDS specifically, but I also liaise with the ODEM. All of the state's continuity of operations plans are all rolled into one. So that's part of the cross-agency collaboration. So we collaborate on projects with OREM, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but ODHS last year, I believe, or the year before, created their own emergency standalone office within ODHS. And so they specifically deal with social services. So I work with them a lot in cross-agency collaboration, and a lot with APD, child welfare, tribes, local governments like this. So just kind of showing up is a big part of this job. Relationship building and networking for me to you all, but also you all outwards with your local emergency management, with CMEs, with FEMA, whatever you need. Supporting resiliency and preparedness activities. Oh, interesting. It went by itself. This would be for CMEs. This would be for licensed homes. This would be for families, and also family networks. So I can help any of those folks. And, the goal is, I kind of come to a realization over the last year is that there's a lot of things that people know how to do already. You know about go bags, right? You know about getting under a table for an earthquake. That stuff, everybody's sick of it. So when I want to, support those resiliency and preparedness activities, I want to get specific. So projects with, concerning power generators, air quality, which has been a big problem. And, luckily OHA had a program to help with some of that, providing air scrubbers and things like that. Yeah, so just in any way I can, I'm always looking at either IDD specific, or sometimes that's not possible and it's just disability specific ways to be more resilient and more prepared. So we can do that with training, education, and advocacy. It goes both ways. It's not only teaching the IDD community about how to be more resilient and more prepared, but it's emergency management folks don't speak the same language. And so you'll see the next one is I'm a translator. And I'm not sure if you've heard the term FEMA ease, but it's a completely different language that FEMA speaks than the normal population. It's kind of like being in the military. And they certainly don't know, Oregon language and how ODHS and ODDS kind of like name things and what they're talking about. So I translate between those two worlds all the time and make sure that both worlds understand each other. It's just a silly little thing, but it's really important. So that's kind of the day-to-day stuff that I do. And then I'm sure you're all familiar with this, but I always want to stress, because the conversation can kind of get off the rails as to like what Oregon Department of Emergency Management or ODHS, ODDS can do. Because basic emergency management principles are that you start from the bottom up, the lowest jurisdiction possible, and then as if things increase in the lack of their ability to handle the situation, they'll start working up the ladder and pulling other resources in. And unfortunately, we're at the top of the ladder. So that's why I really like to focus on the preparedness side, because it's going to be a while before ODDS really gets involved in an emergency. We're going to be dealing with our own internal stuff first, sending me to probably the emergency operations center so that I know what's going on, and me reporting back to ODDS. And at the very beginning, that's what's going to be. We're going to be shoring up our own things so that we can push outward and help that way. So yeah, the time that I get pulled in is very rare. I haven't been pulled into I'm alerted about wildfires, but I haven't been pulled into a response. The last response that I was part of was the RSV response at the beginning of this year. And that is wrapped up. So I don't get pulled into the high level like EOC type things unless it's a really significant emergency.
Yeah.
So I just found this little graph today, and I just wanted to share it because I'm a very, very visual person. And so I can tell you till the cows come home, like lowest jurisdiction first, this is what we do, this is how it works. And I just really like this graph because it really did pinpoint this blue line that says social services really does kind of represent like where I'm at. So it's a pretty even state. We're trying to we are not a spike of like just jumping in when we need to. We're trying to stay even keeled and kind of like be there for the duration. And so we're slow and steady. And then disaster response is the big spike there, and they're the ones that are going to jump in and start dealing right away. But we also stay in for the long term. So we're there for you now, and then we're there for the long term. So I just wanted to throw this in as kind of, a visual for folks who are like me. So Gray Sky Days, this is kind of what we would do. For those of you who are familiar, ODHS is responsible for mass care, and that is essential support function, ESF 6. And so that is sheltering, feeding operations, first aid, emergency items, family reunification, which is a big one, especially once we lose Red Cross and FEMA, that kind of falls to us. And then another thing, this is our essential functions as ODDS. So these are the things that we are going to do first if an emergency happens. Obviously the number one thing is to make sure that folks with IDD have access to services. And then we have our folks that are very fragile in the SACU stabilization and crisis unit. And so those are our facilities. And so we have to make sure that those are safe. So that's a big one too. Protect against abuse and neglect. Maybe day-to-day things are not as important suddenly. And so but that is something that we really need to focus on. And then there's going to be still case management and placement needed. And we got to keep doing that function. It's very important. So these are the first things that we'll focus on getting back online within the first 72 hours of a major disaster. And then I'll pause there. I'll just leave this visual up for our GIS, and I'll just see if anybody had any questions real quick.
And right now, can't really see the screen. If there's any questions from the online audience, that would be great. But if not, I do have one question. For now, let me see if I can get it pinpointed. Oh, yes, the trainings of these, the trainings of the FEMA federal relationships to the local levels. How have they improved since Hurricane Katrina and the days of, when it was maybe, maybe not so known about this type of community here, and how has it been implemented in what you've been in your position over the last year or so? I've had access with training, for example, with 20 modules, and many advocates feel overwhelmed, in that type of training, but it's very important to go through that so we can, put those notes in there. So again, how has it changed over the last 20 years of FEMA's relationship and then the last year since your job?
Yeah, I can touch a little bit about the history, because I did just go through a grueling 8-hour FEMA training on it, and they drilled it into you. But post Katrina is actually when they developed a separate office to deal with access and functional needs folks. And so there is now a specific disability office in FEMA and in every single region. So that was a big change, and they are just getting more and more money. Overall, my opinion, I can't speak for fact, but emergency management, at least in the last few years, and especially since COVID, has really opened up, and a lot of money is going into it because people are finally realizing that being prepared is cheaper than response and recovery. It's always about money. And so things like the OREM office at ODHS, the fact that the Oregon Emergency Management, which was originally part of the military branch of Oregon, is now sits at the director's office. They are their own standalone department, at the governor's office, and have staffed up accordingly. And so you're seeing this field grow exponentially.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. Whatever you just said on that last part, I definitely would like to note on the thing, on the relationship with the Army of Engineering and all the other aspects of that connection to those who we need to communicate locally would be great in that thing. Sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to make that note because I missed it a little bit, but I can rewatch it later.
Okay.
But if it can be noted.
Yeah, and so the other thing is, at least in Oregon, I can't say enough about OREM, the Office of Resilience and Emergency Management that sits in our agency. They have regional teams that know the folks that are getting in there every day, and that has been a game changer. Maybe not as felt at the moment in areas that maybe don't have as much going on, but in the counties that have many emergencies, they have very strong relationships, and the community has been pulled in so much more. They are doing amazing work on the ground, and they really are focusing on pre-emergency. Their response over the summer for heat and air quality related things was absolutely incredible, because they have people that live there and they know you, and it's not just somebody in Salem or someone in Portland. So that's been a huge improvement, and I think that it's just the fact that there's more people in emergency management is changing the game. I think it's not this like elitist thing, or it's not like you have to have a million years of military experience. I have an art history degree. I never would have thought I would found myself here, but it's a field where there's lots of different opportunities for all kinds of different people, and then the more people that know, that's a great mitigation effort on its own. So that's kind of cool.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Definitely on the training for Katrina, year that you have your information is important, including what we provide. I want to also mention, since November we don't have a meeting. Thank you for your service and all who throughout the country. Thank you. So to act on behalf, I'm raising my hand as an advocate. Sorry about that.
I have a-
Please do.
Hi, Ash. I have a couple of questions for you. I was trying to make notes, so you mentioned cross-agency. So as a foster care provider and going through, COVID and then the fires that we had here in Oregon City, I think one of the bigger concerns would have been medication for all of my folks. Medicaid doesn't fund for a week's worth, let's just say, of extra medications, and I don't think licensing even knows how to check for that if we were to be able to house that, but that is really important. When the fires came in, it went on for a long time, and the way that insurance pays for things, sometimes you only have 2 days of medications before the cycle gets approved, and if my home, for instance, had been at that 2-day cycle, we would have been out of medications for over a week. And that is a really big concern for me. So how can we partner and who can we get together to change that and to make medications accessible prior to an emergency so nobody gets stuck in that?
Yeah, this is a big issue that it affects everybody and has been a huge topic. Lots of people are trying to fix it. It is really complicated, as you can imagine. OHA would be the first place to start. Their health security preparedness, HISPR, they are working. This is something that they're very invested in. And HISPR is kind of the first response office for OHA, kind of like OREM is for ODHS. And they are in charge of setting up medical shelters. That is what their number one thing is during emergencies. I have not been in any work groups with them recently, but earlier this year, in some of the sheltering work groups that I was in that were specifically they were asking for input about what DD folks would need. And in those conversations, they did let us know that they are trying to do a kind of workaround where they can have a licensed pharmacist at the medical shelter who could possibly dispense. It's incredibly complicated and I don't know all the nuance to it, but it's something that they're thinking about. So there is the potential possibly that folks in shelters would have medication, but also that folks who didn't necessarily need shelters could potentially go to a shelter to get medication dispersed if they needed it. This is very, very early days, but please know that this is important to definitely OHA and ODHS, and lots of people try to think out of the box. The best solution now that I've heard is that people just kind of have arrangements with their doctors and just making sure that you get your prescriptions filled early. And if you time it right, you can kind of get an extra week kind of wiggle room. But you would have to work with your doctor on that based on refills. But it's just kind of like having to it's really, unfortunately, not necessarily like above board, but you got to do what you got to do. So just kind of finding ways around it that are in the gray area is really the best that folks can do right now. And then don't forget, we also have the issue that's still ongoing. We are not in a time of necessarily crisis, but in supply chain. So that is something I don't know that we can address, but it's a hand-in-hand problem.
Okay, supply chain. So another question I had is how do we get, you'd mentioned that there were agencies that could supply things like air filters, and when you said that actually jogged my memory, because when we had the fires again, we couldn't get air filters, and air quality in our home was really bad, which I'm sure it was for a lot of us. And I actually had to have my parents from Texas send me a huge box of air filters because we couldn't get them anywhere. But I didn't even know that you offered those. So how can we get the word out to people easier?
Yeah. So there's an air purifier program that OHA has for individuals, and it comes with one free filter, which is obviously not enough, but they're working on making it with the new, gosh, I can never remember the name of it. But next year, basically, you'll be able to bill climate related expenses as health expenses. And so they're looking at using that to pay for air filters, possibly starting next year. So yeah, if you get a free air purifier from OHA, you do get an extra filter with that. And if you're a larger organization, we can provide, OREM can provide industrial sized air scrubbers. So for a facility, they can get those out to you and they drop them off, they come pick them back up and pay. You don't have to pay for anything but the electricity to run them. But yeah, it's another thing that like we lesson learned, because last year was the first year they started offering air purifying machines, and then people were like, I'm out of filters. So that's another thing that OHA is working on.
So for the recording, who would somebody call, or what website would they go to find out more information about that?
I can pop it in the chat. There's a website that OHA has up. It's also the former air conditioning program is on the same page, but I do want to highlight that we do not have any more devices for 2023. So it's kind of mostly just an air purifier program. But I can, once I pull my slides down, I can find that link and pop it in the chat for you.
Thank you.
Oh, look at this. Georgetta, is that she put it in. She had it. Thank you so much. That's the right link.
Any other questions out there that may have? Sam? Colleen? No? Okay. So on the air purifier program, that's a new program. It's not going to be my question, but I do want to get some clarification because it's very eye-opening that a group home situation did not have anyone to call on that type of thing. I did get information as an advocate in other areas about the air conditioning bills, or certain concepts like that. So how can we? I learned my purifier stuff, for example, from SDPA. Obviously, because it finally went through and the department said yes and that type of thing. But how can we have that communication between concept and actual, implementation be better between the client like myself and the county and programs at hand? Am I missing something that I'm lucky to understand that the purifiers could be covered under a K plan, whatever, way? Am I just a lucky one, or what am I wrong in understanding for the other people who are, national support and others, not having that information? That's not my question, but I want to get that, because that is an eye-opening thing that even the entities that are serving our clients may or may not even have that opportunity of the next bill or the next concept or the next, opportunity without it being too much, objects that might be harmful for that opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of on the backs of case managers to kind of know what's going on in the state. We did do a transmittal to notify folks about the program last year. And then this year updated to submit the transmittal. And if it continues next year, then ODDS will update the transmittal again and most current information. CCO should also know this stuff. And so if you're working with your CCO, they should know this, and that's nothing that necessarily I can help. Counties are starting to know a little bit better. And then what's the other thing I was going to say? Caseworkers. No, lost it. Sorry. There was one other.
I have my real question. I apologize, but that was an eye-opening experience. So thank you very much for pointing that out.
I think it just might be easier to, we have a link or somewhere super simple in an emergency. Simplicity is the best. So, and even knowing ahead of time, of course, but it's not going to be available till next year. But even a simple down something, or like when you access
communication,
any state website, it can be super easy to find exactly where you're supposed to go. So people can get kind of lost in.
Maybe a topic between AI and ML conversation of the one-on-one relationship, something like that. My real question asked on my last question, give or take, if there's no one and we still have 10 minutes, is when there is an emergency and there's a client that needs to leave right away, and the Red Cross is taking care of it, or the firefighters are being taken care of it. You mentioned that they're getting better at the communications at the national level, and they're someone that knows you every day kind of thing. what is the process of someone who goes through Red Cross? Or what is the perceived knowledge of when someone goes to the Red Cross and needs to contact the PA or SDs every day to other issues? When they get their foot onto the ground of a Red Cross thing, what is the perceived process for someone with disabilities supposed to do, rather than being group home or institutionalized or other aspects of that? What is the expectation for someone with disabilities to to explain both sides of maybe wanting to be a citizen versus something that just needs way too much help and maybe needs to go to that person for communication?
Yeah. So, Red Cross folks are volunteers, right? And so they do the best they can. And the county is supposed to be helping in those that setup and getting everything going. So higher up folks are, the main leadership of Red Cross. They do have access to functional needs training. And so they're, but not everybody there is going to, right? My advice is always to go early. So if you have any thoughts that you might even need to go to the shelter, it might be good to go early as soon as you know that one is open, and talk to somebody, get first preference of thought, find out what like the electrical capabilities are, if they have a fridge or not, and kind of find those things out right away so that they can get them for you, and others, as soon as possible. So if you show up as they're setting up and you're like, hey, I definitely know that if I have to evacuate, I need a refrigerator for medication, they'll be like, oh, thank you. They'll start working on getting a refrigerator. But obviously, if we're in level 3 evacuation by that time, we may not be able to get that to you. So if you can call as well, you can also call the county and see if they've called in the Red Cross yet or not, because a lot of that stuff happens behind the scenes. And often I don't know necessarily when Red Cross is deployed, but your local emergency management are going to be the ones that call them, so they should know. But
I just want to make sure when they get on the front floor of today's, records or whatnot, and your relationship with ODDS, I'm not calling someone that's on a higher up of ODDS right away, where I just might need hearing aid recharger, or whatever, something littler that can be taken care of at the local level, and then go up the chain after that. Knowing that chain of communication is very important when we go through it.
Yes. And also there are
as a client and as someone who does services like a group home situation, for the note.
Yeah. And just to give you an example of ways that has kind of improved, this year they have staged big trailers full of supplies in multiple places across the state with cots and all kinds of things so that shelters can get put up quicker. So they're not needing to scramble as much to get the basics because they're nearby. So that makes it gives them a little leeway to help with more individualized needs and things like that. But call right away. And there is a lot of personal responsibility involved, right? Like, let's be honest, to each person's comfort level of how involved they want to be. But it is personal responsibility to know your local fire department numbers and all of those sort of basic emergency things. No one's gonna be like, when the shit hits the fan, sorry for the crass language, but you're the first line of defense. So having those numbers available, and there's regional Red Cross numbers that you can call as well, and regional local contacts. So if you
asked that question because I know my natural supports are going to be dead or deceased, in the next couple of years, and it's very important to know that process as we transition through certain age cycles, no matter if it's a college student to other beyond. So thank you very much. I understand some of it's our own responsibility, non-emergency hotline. Something better than 211, though it's a great resource and we appreciate it. 988 is fantastic, but knowing what level to call, in an emergency rather than just panicking is something that I'm hoping to bring to the table on all ends of the spectrum. And again, any other questions not about me on this one with Ash? I hope we can communicate later, either at the city level here or in other aspirations. But any other questions or anything on emergency preparedness?
I wanted to see that
we have. Yeah. Oh, we have to do more of the presentation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do more presentation. Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, no, this was my last thing and I love talking about it. Amy did put one of the questions that potentially to discuss was the GIS project that we've been working on since before I came on. Last November when I joined ODDS, we thought we would have it up and running before the end of the year. Like we were so close and we're gonna be ready. And it all comes down to P numbers. So those of you who are familiar with the P number process and have them yourself, it is a bureaucratic nightmare. I apologize. It is what it is. However, we have piloted it out to like literally a handful of people. Basically, if you were lucky enough to have an active P number, then you got into the pilot. If we had your name and you had an active P number. So as contracts are being signed by CDDPs and brokerages for this new biennium, we are able to move forward with that process because the new contracts do allow for additional P numbers. That said, the process, once you do get a P number, it's pretty straightforward using GIS. And I don't think that even I have imagined all the potential ways that you all will be creative in using it. Because it's a tool, it's not just for emergency response, it's also a tool for planning. So what I have pulled up on the screen here is Clackamas County specific GIS map. So every dot you see here is a client in DD services who have in MMIS or Oregon One system have Clackamas County as their CDDP.
Yep.
So as you can see, there's definitely some in Multnomah, some in Washington, and kind of spattered around, and that can sometimes be a mistake, sometimes not. The information's only as good as what's in the system. So again, if people don't have up-to-date addresses, there's nothing we can do about it. But this is just a screen grab. I didn't want to pull up the full map just because I didn't want to potentially show you any data that was restricted. But basically, you can click on any one of these dots, and if your CME, if that is one of your clients, you'll be able to grab their address and see how close they are to a fire or any kind of event that is up in real time. And so as the evacuation levels grow or change, the areas change, the fire shifts, that kind of thing, you'll be able to check back. So if you're signed up for, let's do this scenario. So this is what I usually do. I sign up for emergency alerts. I have emergency alerts set for every single county in the state. I get an alert that there's a fire. I pop on my map, which is the whole state, and I put in the location as best I can. Sometimes you don't have much information to go on when it first starts, and just kind of see if anybody is nearby that is of concern. And then I will let OREM and OEM know if there is. I will say there's 8 addresses impacted that have DD services, people in DD services. And I will also reach out to their CME. So sometimes the CMEs already know, they're already on it. Sometimes they're not. So in this case, going forward, I would not have to do that for everybody because CMEs will have the power to do that themselves. So they will hear from their daughter, they're letting school out early because there's a fire threat. And they're like, oh, shoot. They tell other people, they get on GIS, they start looking. Y'all are going to know that's way before anything gets to an alert that I get. And so that is the best part about GIS. You can access it's information that CMEs already have, but in a different format that they can access quickly because they have more knowledge about what's going on in their own area than I do. And so for now, I'm the stopgap. And so I'm sending the lists of names to the CMEs saying, hey, these folks are potentially in a level 2 evacuation. Let us know if you need help. And if they do, they'll reach back out to us and say, we're all good. Everybody's safe. They went to relatives' houses and we go, awesome. If they need more support, then we can link them up with the regional folks in their area to get them support. And so you can always reach out to me, but I'm 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So I may not be able to help you. And that's why we really want to like continue to push you to go to the local services first and to keep everything local. But at the end of the day, if you need something, if you feel like you're being ignored and you need somebody with a state email address to advocate for you, that's what I'm here for. Yeah.
Hard to go throughout the chains. I do see, it's hard to go up and down the chain in ways that sometimes community partners need to, you know, I don't know what I see in that disconnect. Sarah, you had a great, hopefully a question. I would love to hear it.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure I know what a P number is. And do you need to have that to be on the GIS grid?
Yeah, so that is something that CMEs would designate certain people to have a P number, and you need that to access any systems that are behind DHS's wall. So you would use Citrix to get in, and if you, it's no, it's not a prime number.
It's
I don't
a partner
honestly.
number. It's a partner number.
Is that what
it is? It's a state partner number.
I've been looking for a year for what that actually stood for, like digging through like policy, and thank you, partner number.
Yeah, it's a provider partner number. And so those numbers are issued to state partners so that we can access systems. So it isn't given to public community members. And it really doesn't, I think, Sarah, to your question, it doesn't actually have anything to do with you getting on or being identified on the GIS map. It just means you can't access it because you wouldn't be eligible to have a provider number.
Oh, okay. Okay. Totally understand. Thank you.
You bet.
So there's probably a dozen folks at each CME that have one for different reasons. And they may, just because they have a P number doesn't mean they have access to something. It's a multi-step process. So that's another one of the complicated parts about getting people set up.
Yeah, I have a P number, but I can't get on it.
Yes. So I will tell you, then you don't have a P number.
Yeah, I do have a P number, but I don't have apparently the right access. Stacy has.
Only Stacy has it.
Only Stacy has it right now.
Yeah.
So then I guess my follow-up question would be, is my daughter on, is she on the grid? I mean, how do I, okay, so if she is in services, if she has access to services, then she's automatically going to be identified as a person that needs to be checked on, basically. Yes. But okay, good.
If your address is updated.
As long as we have your current address.
Yeah.
Great,
and,
thank you.
Yeah, and so a lot of the times emergency services will start going door to door before I know anything is even happening. So there's a good chance that people already know what's going on. And every once in a while, somebody will respond and say, this we don't serve this person anymore. They shouldn't be on our list. And it's kind of like, well, that's your problem. So you all have to make sure that your clients tell you their new information and don't have out of address. That's another thing, is that some folks have out of state addresses in the system and not where they actually live, which is a problem. But I would say 90% of it, 90% of folks are in there. So when we pull the big major list, it's a small fraction of issues with addresses. And I believe recently ODDS requested CMEs to do a little bit of auditing of their addresses, just like as a reminder. So hopefully that's happening. I'm not really sure. And then as ODDS is creating its own case management system, it will start to be linked. So, you know, basically the good thing about that is that everything stays with the state. So it's our case management system, our database. We can change addresses, like we can do whatever we need to do. Right now, it's going through so many other systems that it's a little bit more difficult.
So I have one last question. It keeps bringing up questions. She does not have a county case manager anymore. She has a brokerage. So how does that play into the notification and all of that?
Yeah, all CMEs will be able to access the map, whether they're a brokerage or a CDDP, but they will only be able to see clients that are listed in Oregon One system with that CME.
Okay.
Any other questions or presentation material?
I have no other presentation material, but I'm happy to answer any questions as they come. And I would also, you know, I'll pop my email address in there, and I would love to have folks reach out to me. I'm happy to have a standing a meeting agenda item. If you wanted to just have me on whenever you meet to ask questions, I'm happy to show up. If you all have any gaps in education or training that you want to start exploring, I'm happy to help with that. So yeah, I'm just kind of here for whatever you need. And when there's no emergency happening, I have time to do those things. So this now is a good time before it gets too cold.
All right, so I do have a follow-up on your database question. The state is thinking of doing a lot of ODDS, database and certain other meetings for technological advancements and stuff like that. Are you part of that conversation so we can continue the streamline of what Sarah's concern was and other conversations while we, if it's expressed or other database conversations internally, the office is happening?
Yes, I have made myself part of that conversation. It's really important to me. I am on the wish list of first things to do. So basically, there's a massive wish list from everybody at ODDS of what they want the case management system to be. And so I am on that list with, I would like to add maybe some potential, what's the good word for this? Just potential things. I don't know how to say it. Let me just put it this way. If you need battery power to live in any way, shape, or form, to have a box that we can check. If you are extremely sensitive to air quality, have a box that we can check so that we can triage even better. So that is one of the things I really am looking to have in the case management system. Because right now, when you click on those dots that are a person's address, it just is their name, prime number, and address. That's it. So you don't know why they're in DD services. And some people obviously could handle everything just fine. They only have case management services, and that's that. And then you have, a big spectrum of what people need. So we obviously want to be able to get services to the people who need them most, fastest, and then triage that way. So that is what I have been requesting of the case management system. I don't know if it'll be in there, but we're going to continue to have many iterations and improvements as we do it. We know that along the way it's going to be bumpy, but that is my request. But at the bare minimum, we will have more insight into actual addresses in real time, not have to worry about data pulls. It'll all be integrated, which the data pulls are kind of a pain. And so that's something I do behind the scenes.
All right, thank you very much for that. I just want to make sure.
I actually have a little question. Could you kind of segue into something that I'm actually thinking about? Do you have any work groups or surveys that you would send out to different entities like, foster homes, group homes, and kind of ask, hey, in an emergency, what do you need? Just to kind of compile, a list of, kind of like you're saying, a wish list, so if you could, if it was a perfect scenario, what would you need to have, excellent resources in an emergency? Is there any opportunities for people to weigh in on that?
There's a few different avenues. So we have our DMAC, Disability Emergency Management Council, Advisory Council, and they are recruiting and they are looking for projects to back. And so that's a potential avenue of them creating the survey. And that is if you're not familiar with DMAC, that is 2/3 individuals with disabilities, and then the rest of it is made up of emergency management and public health folks. So it really is by folks with disabilities for folks with disabilities, but it's definitely lost steam since COVID. And so they are looking for projects. So that's potentially something that we could do. I met with every CME in the state this year, had one-on-one meet and greet conversations with them, kind of checking in to see what they need, what issues they're having, how I could be of help, and kind of get an idea of what the last few years of layers of emergency have been like for them. And also to find out what innovations they kind of came up with, because people came up with lots of really interesting ideas during COVID to work around. I have to say, the DD community are scrappy. They are one of the scrappiest groups of people I've ever seen in this, and the ideas that come out So I was kind of data mining them to kind of steal their ideas, but so that's I would like to make that an annual thing. However, I'm a limited duration employee, so I don't know that that would happen. So it may have to just be it won't be a one-on-one. It may have to be an actual survey, but it is something I want to make sure that CMEs are being connected with specifically about emergency preparedness at least once a year.
Again, I appreciate your time and effort, and when your position becomes the next last slide as we close out with it, I really want to thank the county and you and OCHA and others in the efforts to bring you and others up for this conversation over the last couple of months. But I forgot the question, but oh yes, I do remember it now. When you do phase out, for example, do we contact OHA or do we contact ODDS in ways of that transition process that we know of today?
For what was that?
When you do transition out, like in a way of certain aspects, where is the direction of conversation going? So if we have this topic again at Clackamas County, we can have that, you know, one-on-one connection, at least from an ODDS perspective, but knowing that might have to be from another angle of government.
Yeah, that would be OREM, Office of Resiliency and Emergency Management, and they have a regional person that would cover Clackamas County. I can get you that.
I think we're familiar probably with that department. I appreciate you connecting that. Thank you again for your time. Any last questions or perspectives as we move on to our agenda? You're always welcome to stay as a public member.
Nah, that's okay. I gotta go make dinner.
All right, enjoy.
Thank you so much for having me. Reach out anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you very much again.
Bye, everyone.
All right, get through my notes and see where we are on the schedule. Okay, I think we're on a program update, yeah? Is that right?
Yep, Kim or Stacy, and then a hiring panel update.
Yep.
So program update, I'm not exactly sure what folks wanted to hear. So I guess
I think in the planning meeting, we didn't have a whole lot that we knew of. I know we talked about having a hiring panel update for sure, that Stacy was gonna give, but program wise, we met just last month, so.
I think the only thing, then Stacy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, we are actively engaging in conversations around structure and doing more with what we have during kind of times of our budget tightness and things like that. So just looking at how we are operating and being starting to think strategically and maybe bringing ideas forward about how the program can be efficient, be effective, and kind of at our growth limit. So we may not be expanding much. So really trying to really be thoughtful about those kinds of things. So probably more to come as we start having those conversations. But they're brand new, they're fresh. We're just really we just did a brainstorming. So we are really trying to get some solid ideas and then take them one at a time to actually get them to be able to follow through instead of having a whole bunch of ideas and not being able to do anything with it. So more to come on that, I think, as we start to make progress. But like I said, we just had one brainstorming session, so we're really fresh in that. So more to come.
Any questions on program updates? We're not going to see each other for 3 months.
Well, we should have some
Or
good
2
ones
months, it's
for
okay.
you in a couple months.
I'm
Yeah.
excited. So I will ask a question on my side, but please, thank you.
And I had some questions that I was gonna give to you, Amy, at the end for like future agenda topics. So I don't know if it pertains, but I would like an update on, if we can get it, the follow-up on the new PD director hiring. And if there's any progress on that, that would be kind of nice to have an update. I know it's not a local program, but it's, you know, bigger, on the bigger scale. And then I'd love a follow-up on the provider engagement project and like what you found or anything. I would really like to know about that. So I don't know if you're prepared to do any of those updates yet.
I can tell you that we're all in the middle of it, we're in the heart of it, but we will be doing a report. Okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we're still doing the listening sessions that we talked about last time. So we're still very much in the gathering data phase. So I think we have 4 sessions, 3 or 4 sessions left to meet with providers. So we've met with service coordinators and now we're wrapping up. And actually, we still have a few individual meetings with service coordinators. So we're still very much in the thick of data gathering.
So,
and we are seeing we're seeing a few things, so we're super excited about the project.
I was gonna say, as the council member, because I know I've participated as a provider, but are you seeing encouraging things that you were wanting to see? Are there areas that you were like, wow, we had no idea that, you know, have come to your attention? I mean, not to rush you on that, but just, does it seem productive so far?
100%. Like, I think all of us, and Georgetta's, you know, helping steer that project, but I feel like, Georgetta, you can speak to this too, but I feel like we've uncovered quite a bit so far, so it's, some of it we had an idea that it would need to be addressed, and then some of it we kind of, it's new, so I think we're gonna have to like far down quite a bit and figure out what we want to focus on, so, but it is very exciting.
Georgetta? Yeah, we turned off the camera, I was probably in a bad position. Trying to include everybody here.
I don't know.
I want to include everyone. So get me
How
there.
long have you just?
Yeah.
There we go, that's better. No, yeah. In this quality data, do we have a hand up?
I think Georgetta was gonna say
Oh, please,
something.
Georgetta. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you guys touched it. We have 3 more provider. Our turnout, I think, was maybe a little smaller than we were hoping, so we are offering one-on-ones as well for providers to have that session in case they felt like intimidated or overwhelmed by being in a group. So we're hoping just to continue to collect a little more data, but there's definitely themes. And once, I think Brooke, you mentioned, we'll definitely do a report out once we find out more or finish up with all the.
Should you be done with that before January?
Yes.
So,
Hopefully, but I don't know. The sessions, we have sessions up until November, and then I'm not sure from
No.
there. I think
things
it's
happen.
When you generate the report, will it say how many providers participated and how many, gives me, okay, yes.
So from my knowledge, is this a provider only inquiry?
That sounds like Yankees name.
Thank you.
Providers, case managers, we're gonna be talking to the licensors, our abuse investigation team, and our supervisors over these service coordination teams.
As long as you haven't had the advocate when they put the relationship on out.
Oh, actually, they're also talking to individuals in service who are in residential services.
Understandable. Just one thing that, so I appreciate that.
That's why it's such a big data gathering time. There's lots of people to talk to.
Some that's understandable and some that, you know, you have to kind of push harder, so I appreciate that. Since you are, I was gonna ask you on transition budget and going down, Kim or Stacy, hi Stacy. When you guys are going down on the budget and stuff like that, did you guys found out what Kim was referring to, what a transition budget is? Versus what the reality of what the county can provide in the future, at least in next year's budget, even with ARPA funds coming in a 5% rate, versus like, 25%,
I'm not even familiar with what you're talking about.
All right. I just want to make sure that we can figure out what a baseline is for next year's budget. That's what's worrying me.
Well, we have, we have next year's budget. I mean, we budget, we're budgeting all the time, so we just did a true up, so we have our expected revenue for next year. And the only way that will change is if, when we go back and do a request for rebalance, that if it, you know, there was money that we didn't get. And so we're asking that rebalance to have that money brought in at mid-year or mid-biennium, excuse me. And so if that happens, if the legislature approves that and says, yep, here's that money that didn't make it into into the beginning of the biennium, then we might have a little bit more breathing room, but otherwise our budget is our budget for right now. As far as CMEs go, I can't speak to the providers and if there's gonna be additional, what's the word I'm trying to say? Additional funding, yeah, those kinds of things that would be coming in for providers. I do know that PSWs are getting negotiated their pay raises, and that kind of stuff, so I know those kinds of things are changing. But as far as our budget, as a CME, and a CBDP, we know what our budget is, and so the only way that will change is if at rebalance the legislature is generous and says, yeah, you're right, here's the money you didn't get at the beginning.
No, we understand.
But yeah.
Any other budget?
Speaking of budgets and money and whatnot, as a counselor, are we able to have the union that represents adult foster care on guest and ask them questions? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why.
If they want, I mean, if they would oblige us.
Yeah, I mean, they can be a guest at any, they can come and listen.
See.
So the question was, did you guys hear the question? No.
Oh, sorry, I was just wondering if the union that represents adult foster care would be willing to come on here and be a guest. I think there's a lot of questions that I would have as a provider, support wise and budget wise and things, because there's a few things that adult foster home providers are not eligible for due to the union versus group homes, and there's this weird kind of thing with that that's not fully understood, so I'd like to understand.
And I mean, you can request that at any time as a member of the union, so.
It's hard to get them to call back.
If you don't pay dues, they don't.
Yes, so I'd like to approach it.
You don't have a choice to be in it or not. I choose to pay dues or not, but I do.
Pay your dues or not,
So
we're
it's
seeing if we
really
can count, or we can do something about it.
They're kind of
Junior
controlling,
other
driving our service.
representation.
Supports individuals, but.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And yeah, so it would be, if the council agrees to have that as an agenda item, if there's interest from other members of the council, if that's something that.
I know for myself on budgetary reconsiderations and other Donna Lisa or other representation of, of Clackamas County would be great to have, in at least in understanding how, where we're going and how we're doing.
Yeah.
I appreciate that information. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Donna Lisa is and I don't know how many people know Donna Lisa. She is, she works for the Oregon Association. So it is, and she is part of it's AOC MHP, Association of Oregon Community Mental Health Programs, and then there's a subsection that is for DD. And Donna Lisa is the person who works for AOC MHP that is over DD. And they're a similar to trade association, they're lobbyists. And so she has insight into that. She is not the expert. She just she doesn't necessarily know all of those things. She'd be able to come and maybe answer some questions on a few high level topics, but she definitely.
And I might misinterpret Mimi as she wanted to spend some time on program ideas that other council members have been, just your hand still and will be respected. But I want to make on note that to my council and all, I might confuse sometimes with the representative of the brokerage system versus the county program. They have two totally different views in ways that government can do what they can, and we have their own opinions, and we've been through that over the last year as a council. But at the other end, I may or may not have other types of conversations that might be different. So when I say Donna Lisa, I sometimes may confuse it in language that I would need to be referred to and try to understand better the perspective of that. So I thank you for that. Mimi? And then I would like to go transition into the next topic of what we would like to contact the council, like what you proposed and other things. Please.
Okay, thank you for giving me the chance. And as you guys mentioned about this subject, like the increase of pay, it's been like even though there is living expenses are increasing every year. Also, when we hire employees, it's not like it used to be. Everything is double, but our rates that we are paid didn't increase at all. So we have friends providers who run group homes, and it's totally different. So as Sarah Lambert mentioned, I don't know what the people who are in charge of negotiating these things are doing, but we are like, maybe because we're not as united as we were supposed to be, so that we can address our issues. It's a good start if someone can come and present how that process works. And also when we accept like new clients, I don't know how the rating is. Some person can have a very high behavioral needs, but the rate is very low. So sometimes it's hard to accept because we don't know how to support them. Even though we want to support them, the payment may not make sense. That's why it's been challenging. So that's what I want to mention. Thank you.
I appreciate the reminder that things are doubled sometimes, and we need to take consideration of that sometimes when we work and do what we can for the entity. So thank you, Mimi.
So Stacy, did you have an update on the, they had a specific question on the hiring panel? Did we want to give that? Not update?
Yeah, an update that's a non-update that kind of ties into the budget since we know what our budget is and we know we're not going to be doing much hiring. I don't know that there's really an update. So, but John did ask me to address this. I had mentioned very early on with this council that we would start trying to figure out a way to include people in our interview panels. And since that time, since I brought that up originally, some things have changed. So Health, Housing, and Human Services within Clackamas County is working on some training for hiring panels. So it's probably timely that we put a pause because there's going to be some training required in the near future to participate on these panels that includes things like implicit bias training. And right now we're really not hiring. So we have a bit more time to figure that process out. So we can definitely bring it back once we know what is going to be expected to participate on an interview panel. We can figure out who wants to participate, go through the training, and then as we have hiring opportunities, we can figure out if the council what kind of representation the council wants to have. So that's really the only update I have. It's kind of a non-update.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Stacy. I'll do my best to remember hearing a positive thing on that. But it is getting, we've approved it many months ago, excuse me, sorry, public. Yeah, and I understand there's a training reorganization on that, but we've all been through training before. And I hope we get progress on that. I know Mimi had a question on that while she gets back on that. Mimi, did you have a question on the hiring panel question? Because I do believe it's important. My hand up.
No, sorry.
Yeah. I do think it's.
I don't have a question.
No question. All right. I do think it's important to include with equity, with all the work we do into the hiring panel to have that experience. People with disability actually know they can have permission to ask that type of question before they're even in front of them as employees. And it amazes me the trainings and stuff like that. They don't really know that type of environment of what we have to go through even before they come in front of our face as clients sometimes. So thank you for the work you've done. All right, we got about 15 minutes. I do want to put out some public comment time in a way of 2 minutes or so. So we would have to ask for some things to bring up to the council or for the executive committee. I hope some of you guys brought some ideas around, and I hope we can have that conversation today. Would anyone have any ideas or topics that we would like to go forward with for the next year, or at least for January, February, and March? Well, I have some ideas, but it's not about me sometimes.
I have some ideas. My pleasure. I'm talking a lot. Some of my ideas would be follow up on places for recreation for folks to build community, mainly adults, because I feel like adults sometimes are slipped through the cracks. There's a lot of focus on kids, not adults. So I know in previous meetings we talked about like Portland Parks and Rec. I'm not sure really where that went, so I'd kind of like to
North Clackamas or Portland?
no, sorry, North Clackamas Parks and Rec. So I'd like us to get some sort of an update or I don't know, something with recreation or maybe other, you know, community partners around Clackamas County that would be willing to offer building space or I don't know, something, but we need something in that area. And then I had kind of already said, you know, just follow up on the new DD director hire, kind of how it is. I sat in on some of those sessions for the hiring, and so it's a lengthy process, but there is a period for anybody in the public to come and listen. Once they've narrowed it down to, I think it was 4 people, 2 to 4 people, I can't remember, for people to come and listen to kind of like their spiel, I guess. I don't know what.
Did you guys hear that? What that was? Okay, thank you.
And then the update on the provider engagement. I ironically put emergency preparedness on there as well. Medication is my thing. I'm just going to keep hammering away at. And then those were my ideas.
The DSP union or the PSW union? Thank you very much for that. Anyone that would like to put their ideas into the round so we can take notes on it?
I do want, before we get too late, we do, thank you, Sarah, for bringing this up, but we do need to vote on whether we want to have your
Oh, yeah. Thank you for the reminder.
your membership continue.
Yeah.
Because your, I believe your time is up in January and we don't meet till January, so.
No, we need to, I forgot about that.
We just
I
need to
appreciate that, Amy. Yeah, we need to do a vote for Sarah, what's the last name of that? Lambert in ways of continuing services for our council. Anyone would like to motion for a conversation and then we can motion for a vote on that. I would motion for the conversation and we would need a second for that.
I second.
Okay. Any conversation? I hear none or see none. Who would like to motion for a vote? Do it myself and I don't really feel comfortable, so I would like.
I motion for a vote.
All right, Colleen or someone else.
I'll second.
All right, so if you can pop open the reaction tool again, so I can remind myself of this lovely, the reaction tool.
Oh,
Yeah, okay, so if I remember right, the thumbs up was a yes. I don't remember if I said the hood or the wow, but we're gonna do the wow for the no, and we're gonna do the party sign for abstain. Or we can all stand up, but, and I might.
let's do raise hands, because I don't think that.
We don't, oh, we do have raise hand function, all right, yeah, if we, okay, let's just do it one at a time, if we say, if everyone motions for a yes, please raise their hand. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, we don't have enough to, yeah, we need yours.
There we go.
There we go, we got 4 there. All right, looks like we got another thing. I appreciate the input that you definitely put in this one and other work that we've done, so it looks like that has been done. I do want to second on Park and Rec District communications of others. For me, I'm lucky, I'm a lucky advocate. I can go to volleyball coaches, I can go to other people in ways to know who Johnny Glenn is, meaning the Park and Rec for Clackamas County. And I can get those types of perspectives and understanding why sometimes communication may be disbalanced or tipped or pancaked or whatever volleyball term you want to point out. She is part of a coaching staff around here in Oregon for volleyball. But what I'm trying to point out is that communication needs to be for every client in a way that even when you talk to community partners, to that language of their connections with Johnny or other people, if you're still not doing unified movement or other ideas of that type of concept, it blows my mind, that communication disparity sometimes. And so I'm hoping that we can understand everything. But one conversation I think we have to have beforehand, before we do this type of conversation, is what type of events do you want for who you serve? You want individual segregated events in ways that are, a special problem, which I'm so thankful for Sarah for reminding me that as a 20-something-year-old, that do things what we do in ways I might not be the problem type of guy, but I can understand that language, for example, for dancers, for example. So, but I would love to have a conversation of, should we go with the District of North Clackamas Park in inclusive events like say the Dave Houston program, or should he have those with disabilities with everybody, or should we have a single day for these type of opportunities in ways of that type of communication with the county and what we do? That's the only caveat. I'm not saying it's a hard stone caveat, but that's what the Parks and Rec, it's disappointing when there's a mermaid day in 12th Hill Park, and there's not a mermaid day. Even though I don't want to be a mermaid, I'm going to be made fun of people, in that. Those opportunities that Parks and Rec provides to community and who we serve, that is important to me on the Parks and Rec conversation. And knowing as an advocate where to go with that, with the council.
That makes sense. And so, I mean, I don't think anyone's averse to the conversation and having them here. So it'd be, maybe at our next executive meeting, we can assess who's going to do the reach out.
That would be great. And I would like to go one above Johnny in ways of communication or whoever's that, because I think it's important to have those, because when I talk to my friends on non-disability who are working in Parks and Rec, I can have a whole different conversation than I can in this environment. And I think it's important for this environment to have this conversation with the county and doctor support to people who have 17 to 20-year-olds who are in the group home situation where sometimes we can't touch their client. And and a house manager may not understand that coming from a
John, we need to keep time.
I am on time. All right. So let's talk. We need public comment. Public comment. Yeah, we're getting now. We've got 2 more minutes.
We have 15 minutes slotted for
public. Oh, well, public comment. I thought we're public. We only have 1 person here, so that's why I. Yeah. So this part of the conversation is, since we do have some guests here, would be public comment. Sorry, I don't remember the protocol all the way, but I think I mentioned it. But did anyone sign up or ask you?
They don't have to.
So we just sit here for 10 minutes? I don't know.
We can ask.
Yeah,
Have anything they'd like to share?
Or ask.
Ask any questions.
I just haven't been a part of the council for a long time, so we're talking about subjects or things, I'm thinking about things we used to talk about, like the right sources will come in and talk about things and share with the council, or how many people are living in different service elements. I haven't gotten the information in a long time, so I don't know if you guys still revisit that or look at quality assurance 3 times a year, I can't remember whatever it was, 3 to however many, or how I get those things done. Sure. Questions or ideas.
So I can take that if that's all right with everyone. Okay.
You want to repeat the question? Do you guys hear what she was asking? No, that's what I thought.
Couldn't really hear it.
Okay, so the question was around some of the things that we used to go over in previously in our time with the council, and we used to review specific data around protective services and data around I'm gonna say demographics, right, where people are residing or receiving services, yeah, those kinds of things. And then our quality assurance reviews. So
I have quality on my list.
we did do our we got our review done, and so the state, we did review the one with the state, so when the state comes in and reviews us and says, you have things that you have to fix, or here's where you have issues. So we did do that, and we continue to do that. What we haven't really had back, or to this point anyway, is some of our internal stuff. We did review eligibility, I believe, at our meeting. And so we talked about numbers and things like that regarding eligibility. But I agree, we have not had our abuse investigations unit come in and talk about numbers. So our incident management team might be something, or reviewing our incident management team's information would be something that I think would be of value to bring back to this council, to share it. And I think it's valuable and probably like highly appropriate that they would be apprised of that information. It's the state requesting information on how we're tracking and trending, and what we're seeing in abuse and serious incidents, that kind of thing. And sadly, death reports. So those kinds of things. So that hasn't been brought back, but I think it's highly appropriate that we do somehow incorporate it into at least one or two of our meetings a year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other one that might be nice is our foster care licensing unit.
Yes.
To come in and talk about our provider arena, foster care provider arena. And Roxanne in her role is as the DRC. I think we could probably work on data around transfers and people moving in residential, and what kind of work that looks like, and the level at which people are moving around in homes. And so I think those are some things that in parts of the program that haven't been brought into the council to really engage yet at this point.
I appreciate you coming in ways that sometimes that communication, or when we do council meetings, we don't really have the history. So knowing what things were done and what was not, bylaws that may or may not have been in the past or what, and other conversations. Another part, you mentioned death. You mentioned death and dying, grieving. I don't know what we do with that in ways of that. Definitely when we're gonna go into full inclusive school days of SB 819, which is school days for those with disabilities. Something that's been on my mind on advocacy part, and how to figure out, the peer pressure that some people have. So that's another thing. And then of course, advocacy, I would like to, I don't hear that many voices. You mentioned about foster home, you mentioned about other, and I don't really hear my friends really talk, having the ability to have permission to talk that are on the disability side. So it's very disappointing when if I understand, how we built these programs, but I would love to see more advocacy voices that are just out included into your organization, but who have some type of other determination where they just never had that permission to speak because they had people under them at a group home or other aspects that just blows my mind that I've never really experienced. So it would be nice to hear their voices as they round the bases of life, and and have that type of involvement or that type of thing. I know we're working hard, and I appreciate the work that we've done here. But that's my last note outside the grieving issue.
Did the public have anything else to say, or?
Thank you for the reminder.
Any of the visitors have anything else for open comment?
Thank you.
No. Well, the other thing I was thinking of is we have been included in the past on interview panels. I understand there's a training to do that, which is probably good. But I believe Adam was involved in one also for him. And something that we did do in the past, so probably some things have changed in some rules, but I don't think it's always been closed. But I think it was open in the past, and yeah, that was my experience. So I just want to
And again, to know what the bylaws and other rules were the past and why we don't have that now, which Stacy did a great job explaining what the changes for the next 2 months, but why and why not. you know, in certain other aspects, and I appreciate that communication. All right, I think I'm 1 minute late, guys.
John, I wanted to say really quickly before we close, a correction
Thank you.
to the last meeting. So when I had asked about providers, we were talking about providers signing up for sessions online and how there wasn't enough slots, or maybe the same person was signing up for all of them. It was a different agency. It was around providers, but it wasn't what these guys were doing. And it was specific to limit to only 2.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to make the correction. It wasn't. this
We took that
agency, it was the
correction
other
on.
agency.
But I also would like to put out my concern of sign up Genie and how many people clock that up in the same position. And like for advocates for disabilities, you know, I'm not one that might want to sign up for, you know, for self-advocate, for example. I might want to advocate for other people who may not have a voice sometimes. And sometimes they're thinking, they'll clock up, so a conversation that we had on sign up Genie and everything was so valuable in ways that we gotta, if it's a RAC committee or locally here in Clackamas County, and I appreciate you staying on top of that for voices to be heard, even at two at a time in a reserve list or other aspects, because it is important for us to have that conversation, do it. And I was at Fame, for example, sorry, I'm gonna keep you another minute, I apologize. But I could do things online much easier. And I can get those opera classes, or I can get those classes so much easier than anyone else. That's not fair for those who really are struggling and don't have that type of inclusive education. But I'm going to another place right now, preparing for the grotto or other places. So I appreciate the sign up, the conversation, your clarification that there was. But I also think it's a very important conversation for the county to keep in mind. And understanding that might not.
Yeah, this one was functioning.
No, it functions fine, but it's still the issue, does still the issue sometimes for those who are trying to be included in the conversation. Yeah, so thank you. All right, who would like to wrap up time and close it out? Anyone wanna, okay, we have a motion to be done with the meeting today. Do we have a second? Roxanne?
She can.
Oh, no, sorry, Mimi,
I'm not a voting member, I can't vote.
I keep on.
I second.
Okay, all right. You guys have a good one. I hope I'm doing what you're doing. If you have anything you need to tell them in ways of topics, point, please do January, February, March, okay? Thank you.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.